Georgia Color, Jubu Roma, down there, paper, summer, trashy the election. The Thomas Sanjay, Shirabla, in Italy, Samjay, simply Tamchel, chapter button, someday a woman jumped on again. Then the Sanjay poured on someday or they told on thee or Sanjay, Samjay, Samjay, children not getting by it. There's so dark or Narani, the same thing, the government or Zion Tanga getting by it. Zion Tanga getting the married then or something. Saji, Samjay, the Sanjay for Sanjay, Jesus Trimba, True Jesus Trimba, getting Jesus Trimba. It's someone say, okay, almost one bird.
Dashitele to all my disciples who are following us on the live stream and all of you assembled here. So through the Buddha's wisdom, the Buddha cultivated a great love for all sentient beings. And this love pervades all sentient beings. And this love is, again, an example of his love is this milk contained in this begging bowl here. It is an ocean of nectar. This bowl is filled with the Buddha's loving kindness. And if you see that, then you remember the Buddha's love. And then you remember the Dharma. And then you remember, I am a Sangha. And so for that, you actually have to look inward at yourself. And if you think that, if you find that I do have love for sentient beings, then you are a real Sangha. But if you find that I don't really love all sentient beings, then you're sort of like a fake Sangha. So when you see this Buddha's begging bowl, we remember the Buddha, we remember the Dharma, and we remember the Sangha. So I'm offering to you this milk tea of the Buddha's love.
Manam Katanyam Besim Chantam Chedeva Dante Donga Dandar Nurdulana Me Yanda Bado Besancho Rinpoche Tobasa.
All mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be free from suffering. Swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. All mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. For that purpose, until I attain Buddhahood, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Until death, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. From today until this time tomorrow, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue.
Sancho Nimbo Chijeba, Sanje Namla Jabsunche, Chudan Sancho Sambaye, Solan Tevjin Jabsunche, Chedan Hunje Desheje, Sancho Tuna Jiban, Sancho Samba Labala, Tedarim Janebada, Tevjin Rola Pendonda, Sancho Senne Chideshe, Tevjin Tuna Labala, Rambaje,
I take refuge in the Buddhas until attaining the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. I take refuge in the Buddhas until attaining the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Ma le lo ye lang de ber la na de nian zhou gong tu jie zong de zhou de nian zhou gong tu jie zong de zhou da le long jun dou ba jin qi dang Hong Kong Jin Jian Tar Yong De Ma Ji Da De Zong Wei Ngu Bu Zhe Ce Gong Ber Jie Dan Zin Xie War Sen Jie Lo Ngu Dan Ngu Men Ta Le Yong Zhe Xian 见个内翁着翁道切切，门前人的内楼面站球，二位三界头发三界路。
An infinite array of worlds, each with 4 continents and the wealth of infinite oceans of realms. If I bring them all to mind and offer them without exception, please hold with compassion all the beings they contain. My body enjoyments and whatever I own, my aggregates, elements, and sense sources, my aspirations now and in times to come, as well as everything I grasp as mine. By offering them all, may I be blessed with the end of self-grasping, completely liberated from the bounds of real and unreal, transcending the names and attributes of arising, cessation, and abiding, coming and going, affirmation and denial. The supreme mandala is the natural state. When I offer it, bless me to attain the state of Buddhahood.
Om Guru Deva Dhakana Ranama Pati Dosova. Page 11. Sam Chanam Jasambada Loya Sara Chadava Chechon Tu Monte Baye Chejian Kolo Gudu.
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
거기 사와저리는 거 바닥 총만 삼제도 사치불도 초라다면 이 사람 그 주바람 이게 용거리 이마람 이거 삼제들의 팔도 선정을 나오람 이게 용거도 다디 세미치 제야면 뒤 지세들이 다 삼제는 좋거든 다도 동당 사정선데 들이 탕적 삼제 순종나 감성감 만남나 소수에는 대동체 정도 장하고서 예 되게 지체면 뭐 쇼요 뒤 거네 다 냠니 탐체 나니 냠니 탐체 나니 사진 줘봐 생기는 배봐 골자야 돼 샤지 골자야 돼 다칠 내라고 sem만 같이 삼체가 된 sem만 뭐 끼직끼를 내야 돼 탕적성을 되고 끼직적성을 내야 되니까 샘지 받아서 공자진이 돼 덴바지 동호가 빼고 차도 들려만 하면 양당도 들때 체서 빼피해서 닌종파도 주고 늘들이 답지가 싸움하다가 따뜻하 좋아하게 돼서 토마니 삼대스를 잘지고 오 잘지는 사만 삼대스를 잘지서 그만 가고 가리들은 자디들 록실요 자디 가리질 정도 삼나다 대디야 하는 거 하장 찌어지면 되지 좀 못해서 송탐전이요 대탐전 오 당연히 자니 철저히 롱자세를 철 파마들 전치고 다다 보고 당시 파마들 지세에는 또 성동 협자를 땅 대보고 되는 말합지 다 보고 다 요요를 되고 대보고랑 시작을 대선지 대다는 제 코로나 거요 다들이 대로 라를 들때 상태 초라도 그래 대문으로 체대들이 고리리 상모다 자트지 뭐 상모는 오 자니 이밤이데 이거 자지 자기니지 이 강이 하고서데 사제기들이 뭐다 네 다등장 깨와 맛을 내주게 개물이면 나는 따와 찍봐도 요만 대라리 따와리 제마도지 개물이면 찍자면 라로지 다다다 먹고 탈다고 와서 되네 다다다 지양하다 하고 산이 저기 지양하다 시바티는 들이라니 다니 안 잠토거리 나보 좀 뭐는 잠보 줘봐대 주람 잠보 손에 내 마다 보는데 계속 말이 그들이 강시시 줘래 일단 도는데 같이 모여래 일단 사보래 대신이 들어가가 그냥 저스 간종만 조소이 저랑은 냠용 그때 하자 싸지 뭐 랑아들이 냠용제도 대땡사세 달라지 시라 당원 시랑 쳐보 제용을 내주려 걸어 삼로상을 달아 당원아 예행시에서 니삼세랑 니바 매발에 어디 다지 다니지 잡고다서 차로 요래 지키지 뭐래 대세든지 뒤수고 잡로 생기잖아 나 당원들 다지 하면서 뭐 나도 잡아가만 벽에 고르테 jor까지 뭐는 쓰고요 너무 첨보이 봐 하고 가서 뭐 요래 대다 하고 그러냐고 요래지
So Dharma friends, yesterday I began to give you some instructions on the King of Aspiration prayers for excellent conduct, and I just briefly discussed some of those opening verses. And so, first of all, generally, whenever we engage in any Buddhist practice, it is always preceded by taking refuge and the mind generation, the motivation. And so these are extremely important. And if you have time, you can read more elaborate aspiration prayers according to the words of the Buddha, now in the context of taking refuge and cultivating bodhicitta. So there are prayers such as this one here that really contain the entire meaning of refuge and bodhicitta. And so, so regarding now my personal experience of understanding this mind generation. So first of all, what is mind generation? Mind generation means to cultivate bodhicitta. It means to cultivate immeasurable love for all sentient beings. And that is really the purpose of this aspiration prayer for excellent conduct from the beginning to the end. It is a method to give rise to bodhicitta where it has not yet arisen, to not let it decline where it has arisen, and to further increase bodhicitta. To further increase it so that we do not lose it in all of our future lives. And if we do not lose our bodhicitta, then ultimately we will attain the state of enlightenment. And so the method for this is taught in this King of Aspiration prayers for excellent conduct. So therefore it is called the King of Dedication prayers. And it is a skillful method. We have mentioned there are 4 additional paramitas on top of the 6 paramitas, and there are 10 paramitas. There is the paramita of method or skillful means, the paramita of power, of aspiration prayer, and of primordial wisdom. And so this prayer really represents the essence of that. And when you read it often, then through the power of the Buddha's great compassion, you will be able to gain an understanding of what is being said here. And that's also my own personal experience. When I was very young, as a child, I did receive some instructions on refuge and the mind generation of bodhicitta. But during that time when I was very young, I have not really cultivated much of a certainty in that. I didn't really fully comprehend. And so one evening, I read the Great Liberation Sutra. And there was a time when I was not able to sleep. So then I was up reading the Great Liberation Sutra. And as I was reading it, I came across 2 lines in there, 2 quotes, that really struck me and then really stayed with me. And so that one of these quotes is, or these 2 lines are, we mentioned that before, the mind of one of the greater vehicle is like a vast ocean, and the mind of one of the lesser vehicles is like the water collecting in the footprint of a cow. So the difference lies in this mind here. Why is one so large like an ocean and one so small like the footprint of a cow? The difference lies in the degree, the level of love that has arisen in that mind. And so within the mind of someone who practices the great vehicle mind, and they feel love for all sentient beings in the 3 realms of samsara, and they recognize that all of these sentient beings suffer, and their love pervades all of these sentient beings. That is immeasurable love. So therefore the mind is like a vast ocean, and that means it is inexhaustible. It never will cease to be, will always be there. Whereas our ordinary love is more like the water, the amount of water that collects in the footprint of a cow. So our ordinary love, our samsaric love, we love our friends, our companions, our spouses, our children. But this love is as temporary, as fleeting as the water collecting in the footprint of a cow. So when it rains, then a footprint of a cow may collect some water. But then when it stops raining and the sun shines, it will dry out very quickly. And so this is how samsaric, ordinary love is. We do have love, but we don't really understand the quality, the preciousness of this love, and therefore we lose it very easily when we encounter a condition. For example, in the world there are people who love each other, but then something happens, a condition arises, and they separate. They are not able to stay together. So if you understand the quality of love, the preciousness of love, then no matter what you do, whether it's a dharma or a worldly activity, you will always recognize this love that I have is so important, it is so precious. And even if it is in a context of a samsaric life, like for example, for your spouse or your children, you will be very careful so as not to lose your love. It will not become spoiled. And so if you retain your love, then naturally you will actually practice the paramitas, such as generosity, patience, and so forth. They are a natural result of your love. And then ultimately, the essence of this love really is bodhicitta. And then there's another quote that we also often mention, and that is, it says, "It is of a greater benefit to spend a moment in meditation, in meditative concentration, than it is to safeguard the lives of all sentient beings in the three realms of samsara." So this quote speaks about the benefits of meditation. If you spend time in meditation, then this in itself becomes an offering to all the Buddhas, and this in itself benefits all sentient beings. And it becomes very easy to accomplish that. So if you just spend a moment in this state, this meditative state of non-distraction and love, and a state of love, then it is of the greatest benefit. So meditation, the mind generation of bodhicitta, through these together, you will gain a deep understanding of the union of the two truths. And so this is what I have understood when I came across those quotes, and then later I received more elaboration on these from my gurus. Also, Lord Jigten Somyön said, and this is in our prayer book in the very beginning, that we need to cultivate love first and foremost for our enemies. So we are able to cultivate love for beings, but it is very difficult to cultivate love for our so-called enemies. So then we are not able to do that usually. And so in order to be able to love our enemies, we need to understand their nature. They have been someone in a previous life who loved us very much, who was extremely kind to us. And then we have not properly repaid their kindness. For example, if you think of parents and their child, parents are very kind to their children, and they spare no expense. They send them to school, and then if the parents do everything for their children, and the children are just naughty and just don't care about their parents, and so then the anger arises, and often even it happens that when parents mistreat their children, that the child even commits suicide, and then the parents get really angry. And so in this way, this is how we lose our love in these kind of circumstances. And so in order for us not to lose our love in these circumstances, we have to recognize the kindness of even our enemies. And also, moreover, the nature of enemy and friends is really uncertain, it's changeable. And so the Buddha, for this, in order for us to understand this, taught us that there are past and future lives and karma, cause and effect. And that is something that most people in the world really understand. There is just one sort of view in the world that does not accept past and future lives and karma, cause and effect. And so that view is called like a kind of barbarian view. But anyone, that's a very strong view of ignorance. But anyone else really would understand karma and past and future lives. And so because of that, because of past and future lives, it is uncertain. Our relations between enemies and friends are uncertain. And for this reason, knowing that there are past and future lives, we are able to equalize enemies and friends. And this then leads to excellent conduct. We are able to see everyone as a mother sees her child. And so this is now what we continue with here in the text that I will share with you to the best of my abilities. And again, it's very important that you engage in discussion groups. That's a very important, profound practice to do. And now I will continue to tell you all kinds of things. But basically, these things really also come from my own personal experience. And those experiences are also very, very precious. And because of my personal experience with this, I do not feel much resentment against any so-called enemy. And that is because I understand karma. If you understand karma, if you think of karma, if you consider that, then the resentment against enemies will naturally be pacified. So enemies and friends are uncertain, and that's also important to understand. And the opening prayer by Lord Chikden Sumgön, where we put our enemy first and foremost, is very, very precious. So now we will continue with the prayer, and so through reciting this prayer, we can gain a very deep or profound understanding.
Deva jiktin kangwe mada tonu toksa tabyo kajela dea dungi ga yore oh kaje koso rawang namna dolo kanina rawang yore yena de deva ibu yamanga dungi ga yang doko yoro koje de sanchok semena deva jubate socha cheke sare ta meina de makecha jabdo yore deva mna ta Deva deni dungi le tibe deva ki ta terun khowala ku yo kordeno oh tata deva jogde je wa de tuma yang dungi jo tap makiwa tap de yang choro de le de khode sem khorang de khota deva ndore sem khorang jeshi yo ma shi yo ma ri de sena de ni da deva je chibo kang le de kaptini oh ta kamsum sem jin tam je ra ji to ka deva je chik ta sam je le oh, the samjede dodo jagmun zung bari. Yo, samjede dungi dang dungi jata tawaji jeti. Katini lamsang chingo, kati chingo. Kati ne chi roba sambi keja. Dewa jata de manjo de hako che. Dungi jata tawale. Jati madana. Oh, sanje ke deya mari eto madana sanje sake pen wapola jama to go malari par ka to ya o mari jama to ya o mari. 오늘 네 저들이 다 대저대 되는 게 라게 토리기 용tin 소문하면 다속 사제고 막 내가 토리게 되와지 제 못하는 다른 게 소름 제정을 빠래 내가 토리게 되와 다속 사제고 막 갈래는 로디 탑라들이 네 저들이 버지 네 저거다 삼제지 타추 니들 타추는 딱고 좀 타추 손에 개라 다다다 다 잠벌는 주로 삼제 Devote, Tawangnete. David Jack Matomete. Oh, some say it. This is that something that's on. That bit to drop it on something that's it. Money drawing and money calling something that's it. Till Kong Alkali Catita Zoba got. Oh, get the pay that Java got. Zoba got, calling no what I mean to some god. Java to some Zoba Ravi child. Something taught it up with them. Tele tiri jamaatunu zobada ne kam thorge je chushamne tele mulu ya zobada ne tho zambo dongzi bo chereng bo ya chusham tele mulu zobada ne tho zambo dongzi ba teri jemba chusham zoba chereng bo ta ta ye yore jemba tele longju chushamne tele mulu zobada ne tho zambo dongzi ba o 저를 때는 다다 맞지는 코코람 얘기하고 차도 가래. 딱거든 내가 저요래시. 대다고 하고 그러더니 대가리들이 13, 13대 되고 저세 사제가 다 저거들이 저세. 다 되게 주름 담지 절에 속대 저때 위에 그래서 저때 저때 다 저때들이 저때 간다 레가레베 공부요 말이 저때 레가데 예절 삼제 공 저저 사바삼보지데 강제를 팔아도 서바 람디 디랑관이 저때 공부 사와 레냐 디는 손은 돼야 요래 최종마다 손은 돼야 요래 디랑 그 돌아 맞다는 공직딩 공부사 사강당 레가레나 삼모들 팔아도 서바 적 참았던 거 요지 sebje tamjele khana te yore te tamjele ku ba je yakko chena te taw changone devi jodo kasakar chapdo do to se ke chapde pe kamata ke ma sharuna te no je tona devi jodo kasakar do nga chamdo te bo mare de jikti la kare se na te devi jodo so ni te ha ko so te kali su nam te takwa ja ta go sa te su ka de sa je ka de ni te 사제 가는 사제 지수 뭐 추지들이 막아다 삼제래. 사제 메르티 삼제 자지 뭐 하면 때 맞다. 나고자 맞다. 비샤는 거 하나 로 맞다. 아는 거 답이 뽕총총 다지 가정만 좀 돌아다 말만 비샤 돌아봐다. 버텨 가는 거 가는 쪽. 뭐 가는 쪽에 다스는 뭐아래 수람사. 디탈. 저는 사르이 그 가는 쪽은 잡을 그 강만 저는 그 가래 뭐 가실 마마 로리 냠도 요래 소남 그 저는 사제가 저 강남 그 용당 양당 패주로 데리고 배는 잡을 세상제 때만은 잡을이 뭐가 딱딱 매봐 땅은 다양고 봐 요라 좀 배인들 맨 터다 카티자 밑에 계는 바와 통사다 배르다 소말 대는 이제 사제 용도 이제 하래야리 들들 사지等一些对吧？那사지 까다 취지다 뭐 사지 소리 다 사지 까래 다대다 지요 들들 사지 용디 하고는 이 대바 때는 정하면 대바 이시들 띠좀이 이시지 영을 다들 대베다 보자고 너다 대조박 다 보자 누 생기 엄마라 lok사라들이 세게 누구서 세게 조바래 이 생기 엄마들 세게 사지 혼대지가 강한 적고 말이야. 성기 사지 성기를 매 성기라고 되라고 그래. 대처럼 뭐 좀 말한다고 이 성심도 통나더니 다고시 만나긴 도로 사지 강하면 말한다고 통을 때도 등을 매배 대와 집어 사지고 막 때도 하고 그러더니 석진이 당에 대고 가 적을 거네. 대고 했어. 적을 다 조바공 조비지 조바마자 조바공 조바공에서 삼태에 잡고 잡대 또 저태지를 못하고 저거 요래 대다 하고는 되니甚至삼태 대하고는 대외 저다 내 말좀 해서 잡주 접주가지 책 죽고 뛰는 다 정도래 내 말이 정도래甚至人都 정도래 대외는 되니 다들 대화도 대외 저다 내 말좀 소소한 거 대다고 제가요 대들 대화 되니 조바라 저거 용도 대대는 내미 대화는 저성 때문에 데브 저 용나 따뜻한 배는 잡아내는 라왕 작합답들 소리 대화다 요리들이랑 가다 거시를 해들하는 게 등에나만 하고 요리들 있나 라왕 작합되는 사람 대화돼서 요리 거더라 소소라는 게 라왕 배배 작합들 가는다고 라왕에서 작할 거 생소하대 류디 작은 날 조금 차로래 그냥 뭐 가르쳐 가르치면서 라마 자카타지고 달루루 장을 들이 대다고 장을 자와니 대다고 차들이 대다고 따라나 레게 내가 어찌한 거래 제베들 상모들 레진 제베들 제가 제가 망보를 들이 제와 합서 요바 레진 요바 책대니는 들인데 요래 들들이 제고를 자지 뭐 요고 오상나 들이다 하장 가르쳐 뭐래 샘지바 지바들 그래 yin samse jinan ang phege wa te chogo re rangji dongni nyamden ro ko song rangji dongni ro be song ta ba tin jan 책디들 하도들 랑도 카글로 가는 게 맞지 삼로 땅 책디 가리래 띠 도주 자체 삼로 땅 나도 생기 사들 보면 bên 맞춰 보여래 데이터 하고는 데야 보여래
So coming back to the text, so yesterday we said,
망자 와서네. 하고
so yesterday, so we're on page 17 on top,
가리시야 하고.
and so we said, may all living beings in the 10 directions always be happy and free of sickness. So all sentient beings in the 3 realms of samsara. So our beings in the 10 directions are all the sentient beings in the 3 realms of samsara. May they be free, may they be happy and free of sickness, may they be free of all suffering. But sentient beings, as long as they are sentient beings, there's not a single being who will not suffer. Sentient beings suffer until they attain a state of enlightenment. And so now, this verse here relates to the refuge and bodhicitta opening prayers that we recite, and it's very important to recite them each and every day. And so the prayer says, may beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. So when we look in this world, for example, where humans and animals coexist, animals, for example, there are some animals who experience more happiness and others who experience more suffering. And there are some animals who experience more freedom, they are kept as pets and so on. But even though they experience some temporary happiness, they also create many causes of suffering because they may lack bodhicitta. And then they eat each other, for example. Or as human beings, we commit the 10 non-virtuous actions. And even though we do experience some happiness, in this way we always turn it into suffering. So when there's happiness, we turn it into suffering. And also through suffering, we understand happiness. And this is what we call samsara. So now, in this lifetime, we may experience some happiness as a result of actions created in previous lifetimes. But then again, even though we experience some happiness, we again engage in negative actions. And then these come back to us. And then again, we experience suffering. So the mind always goes on. The mind is without birth and death. So the mind cannot die. And so now, what is the only cause of happiness for all sentient beings in the 3 realms of samsara? It is love. And so there's really it's only this one thing, and that is love. And so then when we say, may beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, and so when we read these lines, we should always immediately remember their meaning. That's what I personally do. That's why when we recite this prayer, I emphasize these words, cause. You might have heard Rinpoche say gyu really strongly when we do the opening prayers. Gyu means cause. So may beings be free from the causes of suffering. So if we have created the cause of suffering, then even the Buddha can't do anything to help us. He can't take us by the hand and help us. So how do we give happiness to others and freedom from suffering then? For example, Milarepa was physically very poor, so he wasn't able to give material things to others. But he was still able to give others the cause of happiness. And once they have that cause of happiness, they will experience the happiness of the higher realms and ultimately attain enlightenment. And so depending on one's level of merit, one slowly or more faster attains the state of enlightenment. But temporarily one will enjoy the happiness of the higher realms. So we have now already decided that the only cause of happiness is love. And so in this way, we really ascertain the relative truth of karma, cause, and effect. And so that is really the ultimate view, we can say, of all the different religions or traditions in the world. They all recognize that this is the one cause of happiness. It is love. So love is very precious, and we need to recognize that. For example, together with your friends, if you have a friend that you love, then recognize that this love I have for my friend is so precious. And no matter how much trouble he may give me, I must not lose my love. I must be patient. I must benefit him with generosity. If you don't harm your friend, then you practice ethical discipline. So naturally, if you love your friend, you will be generous, you will practice ethical discipline, and you will be patient. And as a result of these, you will temporarily experience the happiness of the higher realms. For example, if you practice generosity, you will find wealth. If you practice ethical discipline, you will find the precious human body. If you practice patience, you will experience a long lifespan, have a beautiful appearance and harmonious companions. And all resentments will naturally become pacified. So if you have love, you have the cause of happiness. And so this is what the Buddha had recognized, realized, and had passed on, had given to sentient beings. It is said that the Buddha has taught that all phenomena, everything follows causes and conditions. So no matter what we do, for example, if you think that I have so much work to do in the world, I just have no time to practice, that is not true, because you can practice while you are at work. While you are at work, you can create the cause of happiness, because the cause of happiness is love. And this is the merit that we accumulate. So when you are at work, if you have a good intention and you are kind and loving, then you will practice the 6 parameters naturally. So even if you engage in mundane activities, you can accumulate merit everywhere to varying degrees. For example, if you're working in a restaurant, you can perfectly practice the 6 parameters there. You're offering food, you're giving food to others, you're treating others with respect, you're kind to others, and so on. And so in this way, you are creating the cause of happiness. So the cause of happiness is really found all over the place. In any kind of circumstance, you have your cause of happiness that you can create. Just as we mentioned yesterday, we just need to recognize that. It is just like a rock that is permeated with gold, actually. And when the sun shines on it, we can see it sparkling like little stars. But we need to recognize that. Otherwise, it's just a rock. So don't think that it's just doing retreat. That's the only way of practicing virtue. You can practice the Dharma in whatever you do in the world. You just need to recognize the cause of happiness. And that cause of happiness, that is the merit to accumulate. And so how are we able to recognize that? It is really due to the Buddha's kindness. And that is why we remember the Buddha. When we remember the Buddha, we remember the Dharma. And again, the Dharma is love. So what the Buddha gave us is to recognize the importance, the preciousness of love. So we may even recognize love, but then sometimes we don't know how to really find these opportunities to cultivate love and so in this way accumulate merit in any kind of circumstance. For example, we are often like a child that is very irresponsible with money, and they don't know how to save the money in the bank, and then they just go around wasting the money. So the Buddha basically tells us, don't waste the money, but put the money in the bank where it is safe. And this depositing the money in the bank is just like making a dedication prayer. It protects our merit. But then that merit that we put into the Buddha's treasure house is actually different to the money that we put into our worldly banks, because as we can see in the world, if we put our money in the bank, then slowly over time it actually loses in value. But then that doesn't happen in the Buddha's treasure house. Actually, it increases in value. It becomes even stronger. And so, for example, one sign of it becoming stronger is that An outer representation of the Buddha's teachings in the world are monasteries, for example. And in the old days, many of those monasteries were demolished, and now they are still there, and now they grow even stronger. Sakya Pandita has said that so that the Buddha's teachings are like that. They may be reduced to become very fine or very thin, but then again they blaze up like fire. So in the end, they cannot be destroyed. And so this is how we can cultivate trust in the Buddha's teachings and in the Buddha's words, the Buddha Dharma. And if we understand the Buddha's qualities, then faith and trust arises within us. And the most important trust to have is the trust in karma. And so now, when you read this opening prayer again, may beings have happiness and the causes of happiness, think that may beings have love and patience, and I must hold on to love and patience. So that relation between love and patience, for example, is like, so love is like a lion's milk, because a lion is the most powerful animal, a fearless animal. And patience is like a golden vessel that contains lion's milk. So lion's milk actually must be contained in a golden vessel. And that is like patience. So the milk is like love and the vessel is like patience. And we have said the Buddha is like the lion of samsara and nirvana, the lion of humans. And why is the Buddha like the lion or the most heroic being of beings? Because a Buddha, even when a Buddha goes to the lower realms, for example, they would see it as a pure land. The Buddhas see everything as like a stream-like by nature. They have reached a state of great bliss that is devoid of all suffering. And so the Buddhas have given us the cause of happiness. And so this is really what is being given to us. So when the Buddha gives the cause of happiness, the Buddha says, you must practice patience with your companions. Do not harm them, do not get angry at them, but preserve your love for them. Don't lose your love. And so this is the way in which the Buddha gave us the cause of happiness. And so remember that when you read this prayer, may beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. And it's important to read this prayer of refuge and bodhicitta each and every day and really think about the words. May beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So this is how I practice it myself. If you really think about those causes, then patience will naturally arise. So the verse says, may all these beings always be happy and free of sickness. So may they have the cause of happiness. For example, in this world, there are some countries, for example, that experience a greater level of freedom. And the people there experience the happiness of the higher realms. And of course, also within that, people have their personal karmas, and some of them do experience suffering. But generally, in a free country, people experience a fair level of happiness in comparison to a country that does not enjoy such freedoms. So you have to really become aware of that kind of suffering experienced by individuals in countries that do not experience freedom. They are like bound up and are not allowed to do anything. Whereas in a free country, people are much more relaxed and can do as they wish. And that, of course, is also due to one's own personal karma. So here again, we should reflect on the fruition of karma and also on past and future lives. So everything is really contained within the refuge and the bodhicitta. That is why the refuge and bodhicitta are extremely important to recite. And so regarding bodhicitta, the mind's generation, when you cultivate love for others, you're actually also benefiting yourself. You should also recognize that. It is said that this is how you accomplish the dual purpose of others and yourself. And so all of these words are words that you should really discuss with each other and reflect on and ask some questions. If you just recite the refuge and bodhicitta prayer, just this one time, understanding this, it is extremely beneficial.
담배사 진짜 뒤면지 니가 필마다 되는데 나가 차자와이 단 제와다고는 통건말이 공급해서 뭐 주제도 묻지 와지 삼바다 이게 꺼내 사람들이 내가 가르치는 어디 랑 레와다던 저 바로 소송 대사에서 대 강의들 습지 탐지 대를 하고서 뭐봐서 대를 뒤에다 저 개발하는 제가 대한 정당이 대답질라 파체 매바가 대사마탐이 보람 대다 나요사에 상주지 사 쪽제심 바로 사쪽선 집 라나데서 지도 마저리 방도
And then may they be endowed with favorable circumstances for achieving dharmic goals, and may their wishes be accomplished. And so now this is, I'm giving my own take on this, as I also cannot read the words very clearly because of my eyes. But so the meaning of this to me is that no matter what we engage in, the holy Dharma or the worldly ways of the humans, the cause of happiness is love and compassion. And so this prayer then says that no matter what you do, if you have the motivation of love and compassion, with love and compassion, may all of the activities, all the hopes of beings become accomplished just as they wished. So that is similar to the aspiring bodhicitta, where one aspires for all sentient beings to experience happiness. So it is a prayer of may sentient beings have the cause of happiness and be free of all obstacles to that. So this is what I think this prayer here is saying. And then secondly, is the 5 paths of not forgetting bodhicitta.
내가 답변을 로바까지 대화 요리 로바까지 하자 동행 요리 이 강의 대도 대화 강의 요리 뒤 저때 그 삼마든 이제 끊어놓으면 이 답변 마치면 더 버리고 대로 송마이 사나에서 랑게 차이자고 그래지 다시 되게 대부분 전부 요리 때문에 다다도 집대가 좀 다타봐 다다와 담지 못들라서 봐 대답지 썸만 하게더니
So there are many countries in the world, and there are in those countries there are some individuals who engage in activities with a motivation to provide peace and happiness and freedom to the people. So as a result, there are some countries who experience more happiness. And then there are some countries where people experience more suffering. And happiness is experienced as a result of such a motivation of love and compassion. And so this prayer, so my understanding of this prayer is that this is a prayer where we pray that may those who hold such a motivation of love and compassion, may their endeavors be free of any obstacles, and may their wishes be accomplished. For example, in this world, there are many great leaders of peace and happiness who have also maybe received golden medals and so on, some rewards, awards, and to recognize their intention. For example, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And so this seems to be a prayer praying for those great beings, great intentions to become accomplished. And then, so the first verse here is recollecting former lives and aspiring to monastic life. May I remember my lives in all states of existence while in the training for enlightenment. So there is past and future lives, and due to the karma accumulated from past lives, in this life, we have various experiences. So depending on these karmic imprints that we bring from a previous life. And so due to these imprints also now there are many Nirmanakayas also appearing in this world. So they bring a continuum from before into this life. And there's just different imprints in the mind. So the prayer for remembering lives really seems to be a prayer where we remember a bodhicitta in all of our lives. So may I not forget about bodhicitta. May I sustain the continuum of bodhicitta into future lives. So in the next life, may I remember that. Just like when you light an incense with a candle flame, it always it remains there like a continuum. The fire remains there like a continuum. And so similarly, we pray that the stream continuum of bodhicitta will not be forgotten. And so on the first there's the stream of bodhicitta, but then also the second thing to understand here is that on a deep level, Buddha nature will never forsake us. So we will never lose that continuum of Buddha nature. So this is also one point to understand here. And so when there's bodhicitta within your mind, then your outer actions of body and speech will be positive. And this is a continuum that we bring from a past life to a next life. So maybe again engage in such beneficial activities. So we might have an aspiration that in a next life maybe continue this continuum of beneficial activities. For example, in the world and certain countries, there are some leaders, some people who engage in a lot of beneficial activities. They engage in activities that benefits the people, that increases the country and so forth. And when we hear their names, then we celebrate them. So they are like celebrities. And then there is negative, the other side of the spectrum, the negative people who bring a negative continuum. When we hear their names, it makes us feel angry. And the difference is that one possesses more love than the other. One possesses love and the other only thinks about themselves. And so if one only thinks about oneself, then one will give only suffering to other sentient beings. And this is something we can all see nowadays happening in the world. So the difference lies in the love one has cultivated in the mind. And if there's a lack of love, a lack of bodhicitta, then things like that happen. Then we find ourselves in a country with a very negative, a very evil leader. And then there's other countries where there are leaders with excellent conduct, and the people in this country experience at least some happiness. So when the fault of not the suffering that is experienced in those countries with negative leaders is a fault of a lack of bodhicitta. And then also there is the individual karmas that the people have in those countries. It is said that if you do not have accumulated the karma, a result can also not be encountered. So people have accumulated the cause, and then the condition of a very evil leader, for example, arises to them. So remember karma, and think that I must not forget bodhicitta in all my future lives. I must always remember bodhicitta. And then it says, in all my successive births and deaths, may I always embrace religious life. And so this literally says, may I be a monastic. So when regarding becoming a monastic in future lives and so on, a monastic is someone here who has given up worldly life, the samsaric life. But the difference here lies not in the outer appearance, though. What makes one not be a monastic or someone who follows a religious life is one who thinks mainly about themselves. and so they will not engage in much benefit for sentient beings. So when we pray for a religious life or like a monastic life, we are more speaking about the level of the mind. So it's really not the outer body that needs to be monastic or religious, but it's the inner mind that must become a renunciate. So there is always an outer, inner, and a secret aspect. So there's an outer, inner, and a secret ordained or kind of renunciate. And what's most important is the secret renunciate or the secret ordained. And that is one who has no self-grasping and one who possesses immeasurable love for all sentient beings. So we should always understand that there is outer, inner, and secret, and not only look at the outer.
너는 추점 문에서 가래 동다고 난 것처럼 요저방바 파르나 추점서 로나 매서 말하베 이인도 삼대 레베바 샘진 탐제 레베바 삼대로 따디 요즘에 말해 그래서 난도 폭격들이 잡고 kop주가 숨말에 선초지 저랑도 폭격적 대다음에 제가 까고 제가 나고 이제 디사와 탐제 된도 용세 된 많이 봐 그냥 타고는 샘진 탐제 페밀로 어떻게 추천자 파르도서 맞대 요저서서 마방부 추주섬제절 앞에 서서리들이 되는 것이 세금스 교육담 좋은 대신에 나는 이 상속세면은 대그랑랑 흐고요 이래 요저서서 마방부 추주섬제절 앞에 말할 무슨 말이 대래 주문에서 가리 라라랑 나는 따고 그래 나 호화반은 시기 피세 레면 마오 대마 제대니 대 생기를 피마서 피세 레면 봐 요리 마테 랑은 나가 보다 주문 나서 봐 당시라 또 삼제요 진조바 광고시 삼제도 자치 뭐이第二次랑 망본이 마크요레서 대선들이 제대로 주는 말때 이누 이제지 이누가 사와디 이제들 다들 매정 타는들 남이 그더니 차로도 저서들 처럼이 다 아무들 저선 넘버다 봐대 저선 뭐냐마 다도 뭐냐 좀이 좀 봐서 릉아 이좀 사와 탐절 네 샘진 사와 코너들 레미 봐 덕다 봐서
And so Milarepa spoke about ethical discipline. And so that's the next praying for ethical discipline not to diminish now. So pure morality without defect, may my conduct always be flawless. And so Milarepa spoke about the sincere or uncontrived ethical discipline and said that aside from abandoning deception, there is or deceiving others, there is no other perfection, paramita of ethical discipline than that. And also ethical discipline, it is said that when harm to others and its cause are abandoned, that is the essence of the individual liberation vows or the pratimoksha vows. So when you have a sincere, undefiled wish to benefit others, if your love is really untarnished, then you're free from deception, free from deceiving others. That is true, undeceiving ethical discipline. Chamgyön Kongtrul also spoke about this when this supreme altruistic, a supreme altruistic mind must arise that is untainted, and so that is not like partially virtues and then partially worldly or on virtues, but completely sincerely from the bottom of one's heart one should think or wish to benefit sentient beings, and that is the paramita, the perfection of ethical discipline. And so as Milarepa said, ethical discipline is to abandon deceiving others, which also means that if we do not abandon that, then we might appear externally that we are very disciplined, that we are very ethical. So we may give a very ethical appearance, but within our mind, we do not possess a completely pure bodhicitta. If that is the case, then it is that we are just deceiving. We are only fooling ourselves. And so Milarepa said that, and he said, and what is the benefit in just fooling yourself? So for ethical discipline, we have to look inside ourselves. So if you're looking into yourself, if you find that I sincerely want to benefit sentient beings, and this wish is really genuine, and I want to benefit and I love my family, my spouse, my children, and so on. I love them. I will be patient with them. Then you recognize the importance of love, the preciousness of love. And then you are practicing ethical discipline. And this ethical discipline then will remain for lifetimes to come. So the essence of ethical discipline is to refrain from harming others entirely. And that is accomplished when you are selfless. When there is no self, then when you don't think about yourself, then this ice block of self-grasping naturally melts. And you're practicing ethical discipline. So that is the meaning of may appear in the morality without defect, may my conduct always be flawless. So it becomes flawless when your wish to benefit others becomes flawless.
네, 저점령한테는 이주 동부서 전송, 심지 소당 선한 노바마 당원들이 이주 동부서 전데 개베 취드부터 전데 들이 답시 제니 person 랑게데 제니 들이 셉지 동부서부터 전데 들이 대지는 제 들이 대도 수준나 봤으면 되는 애들이 개베 취드바 셉지 동부서부터 전데 들이 산적부터 대자 같이 보여래 들이 제지 person 제제들이 조대래들.
And there's 3 kinds of ethical discipline. There is the ethical discipline that refrains from negative actions. So that, in essence, is to not harm a single sentient being. Then the second one is the ethical discipline that gathers virtues. So one engages in virtuous activities such as explaining the Dharma, listening to the Dharma, increasing the Dharma. And then third is the discipline of benefiting sentient beings. So that is really the main activity or discipline of the bodhisattvas, and also to propagate and increase the Dharma.
탐지게도 다그 취도도 소식게지 취도만 뭐마지 대대로 로로 강연내용들이 저나 사제가데 고서 남 대식이 뭐요나 그리스 사제가 상적선 용딘 살모 용딘 삼지 ramji가 데리고 어떻게 요래 사마체비를 띠니들이 랑게 고속이 요래 배나 대답을 내가 돈다고 대만 통로 나지이요 말에 나지이 매박값들이 랑게 저렇게 요래 배나 유몽동가데 이 시간은 저러나 들이 이 시간에 유몽동 가까이 오면 나지이 매서나 들이 첫째가 이제 대책님보다 남 대책님보다 레벨 대책님보다 이제 대책님보다 심지 탐색이 요리 대들이 남 대책님보다들이 사적 사지가 뭐라고 떠올랐더니 들이 고소사비가 고토고 요리 변 사지 찾아서베 취송들이 기공칼 사프로운데 빠비오네 대타부에 되게 취티성 이제 불론들은 관고 종성 그 라일을 제서 빼대서 로지 망보 요리 이 취대 랑은 타바리 사적 심지다 제 베케라 로라도랑 소속게 고도 요리 There tata meditata jiti tori dewa yeng ne de da yin yin tang de pe to ko yo le so ti ge le ge ma xie le ko tu ko yo ma le de ji xie ba qi bo le ni din cha bo cha so le de ko tu ko yo ma le de ji da ta ji ge ram ji ge de nang de ji ni bo yo be de ko tu ko yo le de ko to
And then next is praying to teach the Dharma in every language. May I teach the Dharma in every tongue, in whatever sounds are understood by living beings, in the languages of the gods, nagas, demons, spirits, and human beings. So in the languages of all the sentient beings in the 6 realms. So the Buddha's words can unobstructedly reach all of these sentient beings. And so that is because all sentient beings possess Buddha nature. So because on the inner level there is Buddha nature, when on the outer level the Buddha speaks, and also through the qualities of the Buddha's bodhicitta that pervades those beings' Buddha nature, they can naturally understand those words of the Buddha. They can understand through the power of immeasurable love. And through the power of the Buddha having seen the ultimate truth. On the ultimate, no self and other. There's no division between self and other. And so at that time, when there is no division, one's own voice can become any language. That is when the 6 afflictive emotions have transformed into the 5 wisdoms. Then there is no more separation between self and others. And there is oneness on the level of Buddha nature. There's the Buddha nature on the basis, on the path, and on the result. And on the basis, all sentient beings, so fundamentally, all sentient beings possess Buddha nature. And then on the path, through the power of the Buddha's aspiration, his bodhicitta, sentient beings can understand. For example, there was a story about the Buddha Shakyamuni when he taught the Dharma. There was a crow, a bird, a crow who was close by and who heard the Buddha's words and then died there on the spot and then was reborn in the God realm as a result of having heard the Dharma, even though it was a bird. And that is due to the power of the Buddha's great bodhicitta. Through the power of bodhicitta, sentient beings in the 6 realms will be able to understand. So in this world, often this is hard to comprehend because our habitual tendency of thinking a certain way is very thick, and so we think that if I don't know a certain language, I can't understand that. But actually, if someone has released all dualistic grasping and possesses bodhicitta, they can pass on the teachings and beings will be able to understand naturally. And also they will be able to understand naturally on the basis of Buddha nature.
대 스적 카카이나 남 샘데시 님보 제요레 데시 님보 데라 데시 님보 코로나 니요 말이 데도 뭉쳐 또 되오나 데고도 사 적세 삼바 삼제가 제와다 동담 데시 님보로 되니 니메가 말해봐 어 데리 말해 보니 주시 제니네 제대요 데도 타카다면 제요레 무슨 빼세레 빼망보요 빼롱망보요나야 저다 샤가 추인 그 요래지 리타타들은 아메리카 차탐적에 잡아 괜히 이걸 갖다 우리 책지 말을 정 공다시야 이제는 남자의 책에 그 마셔 요래 쳐다 많이 당으로는 너네 계좌님은 치야가 요래 살로 당한테 대사월이 또서 차이나 대신이 뭐요 디세
And to give one example of Milarepa's songs, in that song when he taught of Chirarepa, which is the song with the hunter, and so when this hunter was before the hunter approached, the hunter's dog and the deer were both sitting next to Milarepa, and Milarepa was teaching the Dharma, and those animals were sitting there listening to the Dharma. And so what happened there is that even though their outer body, the bodies are separate, within the mind, they are the same. They possess Buddha nature. And this is what Milarepa had realized. He realized that we are actually not separate beings. We are indivisible. And so therefore, through the power of the relative bodhicitta and the ultimate Buddha nature of non-duality, Milarepa was able to give a Dharma teaching to the animal. There's actually also a tanka on that where the deer is sitting next to Milarepa and he's teaching the Dharma. There are many different examples, but actually it is in America especially, and people have dogs as their pets, and dogs really listen to their owners. The other day there was this instance where the dog did something naughty, and then the owner said, "Now go apologize," and immediately the dog kind of bowed down and showed some kind of respect. And actually, oftentimes it seems that dogs actually even listen better to what you say than people. And that's also goes to show that animals possess Buddha nature.
같이 속보다니 보게 노성 집보당 롭다 좀 가연 롭장 뭐에 데리서 롭다 찍지 메다 자세 흐르디 고소시 미치 떡치자 별 가시는 문제 내가 왕 제다 책을 가리지는 기자님이 요래 들이 떡치자는 미게 채도요 말이다.
So between an animal, a dog with ignorance, between an ignorant dog and an ignorant person, the ignorant dog is much better than the ignorant person, because the ignorant dog at least listens to what you say. The ignorant person does not listen to what you say. For example, if you have a child that you send to school, you spend all this money, and then they don't study, and then after that they even go around with a gun and shooting other children in schools, and that is because of too much ignorance. And that is something that a person does, not a dog, for example. Even though a dog is ignorant, if you tell them something, they will actually listen. And so that's why an ignorant dog is still much better than an ignorant person.
Please
take a break for 20 minutes. So during the break or whenever you have time, especially during the teachings, just recite the Mani mantras, and now we are all together here, like a family, all of you here, and also everyone joining on the live stream. So recite the Mani mantra.